Well, Congresswoman, we will move on, and hopefully in further conversations you can divulge. But the Senate passed a $95 billion foreign aid bill in a bipartisan vote on Tuesday. So before I get your reaction to this, I would like to break down what was in that package. Approximately $60 billion to Ukraine, $14.1 billion to Israel, $9.2 billion in humanitarian aid for Gaza, and over $8 billion to Taiwan. Is this a package that you would support?
Absolutely not. In fact, not only would I not support it, pigs would have to fly and hell would have to freeze over before I support that aid package. What I can tell you is, one, it's egregious to fund both sides of what's happening in Israel, and that's exactly what this bill would do. First of all, I support giving aid to our allies. However, when you're saying that you want to give humanitarian aid to Gaza or the Palestinian Authority, people have to realize that Hamas is a political party within the Palestinian Authority. So you're essentially funding both sides of that war. Secondly, what you have happening in Ukraine, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Ukraine actually has a list of lawmakers, Senator Ron Paul's on it, as well as some of my former colleagues that are people that they are labeling as Russian propagandists because they don't want to support what's happening in Ukraine. I just want to be clear with the American people. I traveled to Poland and I met with the Ukrainian parliament, met with the speaker, and what they're trying to do after this war is over is all the equipment, all the tanks that we're giving them, they want to create a private mercenary army. It's similar to the Wagner Group, which is not a good thing. So I don't think that we should be funding that, one. Two, we're funding their pensions. And three, I mean, why are we not making calls for peace right now? We're the United States, and yet we're supposed to continuously fund this. This is ridiculous. So I respect Speaker Johnson. I'm sure that you've seen his statements. He's not going to be bringing this to a vote on the floor. So the Senate can take a hike. We're not doing that.
I talked to one of your colleagues, Congressman Tim Burchett, last week, and he said he does not support funding for Ukraine, full stop. You did tweet last night, pigs will fly before I vote to send more American money to Ukraine. I do now want to go to the flip side. Some Republicans and Democrats alike have said if we don't continue to support Ukraine financially, Russia could steamroll them, start World War III. What's your reaction to that?
I think that they're fear-mongering. I think that I've been there and some of them haven't. I can also tell you that it's interesting that they don't bring up the fact that Ukraine's not a NATO ally and actually denied joining NATO when they had the opportunity. Also, no one talks about Chernobyl, but you know what? You know who manages that? Russia does. In fact, Ukraine was a part of Russia. So I think this idea that somehow if you don't support that you are a Russia propagandist. Look, I only care about fighting for the constituents in Pinellas County. And what I can tell you is those constituents are not paying for their tax dollars to go to pensions in Ukraine. And that's what's exactly happening with this funding. And I'm frankly sick of people making calls to, to go fund Ukraine, yet they don't have family in the military. They've never served. And somehow if you don't send this funding, then we're going to have to send our sons and daughters to die in Ukraine. I don't think so. That's actually why I pushed the SCHUMER Act. And, as you saw, that was leaked. But I think that members of Congress and Senate that advocate for that should be the first ones fighting on the front lines.
Can you talk a little bit about the SCHUMER Act for us?
Yeah, of course. So it was something that I came up with. I got really frustrated after seeing an interview that SCHUMER had, actually, I think it was on CNN, where he spoke about if you do not essentially want to fund the money for Ukraine, that you're essentially going to see American troops basically serving overseas to fight Russia. That's a disgusting opinion to have. And also Schumer doesn't have any skin in the game. It's not his son. It's not his daughter going over there. So I think that if you're going to do that, you should put your money where your mouth is. Interestingly enough, that was leaked. It wasn't even introduced yet, and someone in the House of Representatives leaked that to the Daily Mail, but I make no apologies for it, and I think it should be passed.
On a similar line, President Biden said that opposing this bill, this funding, would be, quote, playing into Putin's hands. What's your message to President Biden then? Because you do oppose that.
Yeah, President Biden didn't have any opposition when his family received money from a Ukrainian oligarch in Burisma. So if that somehow makes me a Russian asset, I would turn around and say, well, he is the one that's accepting money from Ukraine and from, frankly, Russian oligarchs and their wives. And so when you have that type of information going out there, you have him really using his megaphone in order to throw off the American people because he doesn't have any accountability for what's happening with the money that we are sending to Ukraine. Not only is it insulting, but it's a lie.
And I did talk to one of your colleagues, Congresswoman Victoria Spartz. She is a Ukrainian American. She said she would support funding for Ukraine, but with stipulations. Like, she wants a list of where that money's going. You wouldn't even support that, is what you're saying, right?
Correct.